And we are live. I'm Adam. This is Highly Articulated, and I'm pretty hyped. We're going to do a bit of a PulseCon review, and by that I mean I'm going to talk about G.I. Joe Classified Series. Um, as most of you guys know, if you've watched before, I like the other stuff that Hasbro's doing. But I'll be perfectly honest, I didn't know any of the Transformers that they revealed, like by name or by design or anything like that. The Dungeons and Dragons stuff, it was books basically. The Magic the Gathering stuff was kind of what I expected. There's some, IP crossover stuff. We got My Little Pony magic cards. If you're into that, I mean, that's cool. I learned that there's cards that Magic the Gathering releases that you can't play with. I didn't know that was a thing, but I guess it makes sense. What else did I learn about other brands? Marvel Legends was okay. I'll be honest, Marvel Legends was okay, but it is as an X-Men guy, there wasn't much on offer for me. So we'll skip that as well. If you guys want to talk about any of that stuff, in the chat, I'm happy to answer a question or talk about whatever. Star Wars, Star Wars, there was a little bit more stuff. There was, some vintage collection stuff. That Director Krennic looks pretty good. A tiny little chopper. I will admit that I'm borderline tempted to get the Ghost crew, to get the Rebels crew in the vintage collection, because I don't have room for them in the Black Series, either on my shelf or in my budget. But that tiny little chopper is absolutely adorable. But then again, I could just buy Chopper in Black Series, because my Black Series rules are pretty loose. Mandalorian stuff and versions of Luke Skywalker. Now, does Mandalorian stuff cross over into sort of the Mandalorian universe, which includes Ahsoka as the series? So can I extend the rules to include something that's in that series? Stay tuned to the channel to find out, because I'm leaning towards maybe allowing some of that stuff into the collection. But I'll be honest, my Black Series shelf is already full, so it's not looking good. But I'm not saying no. I'm just saying probably not. But yeah, I mean that's sort of where so I watched all of PulseCon up until G.I. Joe, thinking, okay, looking at each brand, and also thinking, like, there's not a ton of reveals, there's not a ton of stuff going on. And then the G.I. Joe brand team just absolutely hammered us over the head. Name reveals, digital renders, pre-order stuff, news on the His Tank, as well as a tease that there's going to be another big reveal in October, which is soon. Now I can't remember if they said when it would be in October. I presume that it's going to be the 10/27 event, so towards the end of October. They do the 10/27 event every year. 10/27 is like the address, I think, of Hasbro. I don't know. I don't care. But more reveals to come. So anyways, should we get into it? Before that, let's check in the comments. Mike Hext was here early. Oz is here as well. Congratulations to Ray Paz. I thought he was late. Glad he's not. Ray Paz says we have a 5-minute grace period. That's why I do it, man. People think, oh, it's going to start at this time, and then it's 5 after that time. That's by design, so that it's I don't know. Did you guys have we always had I can't remember which one it was, but on TV here, at least where I am, there was always a channel that started all their shows at like 10 after. So basically, like, if you started something but you were bored and you're kind of flicking through at the commercials, you'd sort of fall into the beginning of their show. That's what I'm going for. I don't know if it works or not. It's just it's also easier for me because I kind of sit down at 2 o'clock and then I'm ready to go for 2:05. So figuratively speaking is here as well. Everybody's hanging out. Mike Hex says, what about R5D4? Again, I'm kind of a sucker for droids too. So I say that my rules are what did I say? Mandalorian and then versions of Luke Skywalker. Droids are also kind of in there. I have a couple droids. I'll be perfectly honest. The R5D4, is that the one, the big-eyed one that was on the I don't know. That's the thing. I don't know the droids' names. Like, I'm a Star Wars fan, but there's a whole bunch of stuff that like I just don't have the capacity for in terms of like remembering that stuff. So sorry, Ray Pass says I don't know anything about Star Wars. Fair enough. I'm a little bit jealous of people that don't. Like, I've said this before, I'm a little bit jealous of people that kind of collect one line or like only 2 lines, because I feel like I collect way too many lines, and I feel like it'd be so much easier if I collected fewer lines. So I would get Star Killer if the sculpt was nicer and it was better articulation. Yeah, I mean, that's, again, the Star Killer is I don't know Star Killer, right? If you were with me, if you were sort of hanging out last week, I said as much. I'm pretty sure it's from a video game, but beyond that, I just don't know. Attorney and Ellipse is here as well. What's going on, my friends? Saying hello, everyone in chat. Okay, let's get into what I mean, look, in my personal opinion, the G.I. Joe brand team absolutely kills it. It's been like, what, 5 or 6 of these events in a row where the G.I. Joe brand team came with so much fire, and it makes everybody else look bad, in my opinion. Now, I'm probably biased because I'm a G.I. Joe Classified fan and collector, and I don't really collect any of the other lines as much. I'm not as excited about those other lines. But the numbers don't lie, okay? If we look strictly at, what the G.I. Joe brand team brought, 6 name-only reveals, was it 7 digital renders, and then 6 things for pre-order. One of them being sort of like a buy now, ship now, I think. But I'm not 100% sure. Please excuse the shouting. Can you hear the shouting? That's my kid having a tantrum. But anyway. And then, like I said, then update on the Hiss as well. Like, Star Wars had, what, 3 Vintage Collection figures and 2 Black Series reveals. They don't really do the digital renders, and then they had some pipeline stuff. Marvel had, a wave of figures, and then they're exclusive, and that was about it, wasn't it? Like, and then an update on the HasLab. I mean, and I'll come back to that one. Ray says, you're right, I saw the whole show. Everything else was meh. That was kind of where I was at, right? Like, I thought Thu and Dan Larson did a great job. I thought they were great hosts. I think doing it live like that is a challenge, and they did very, very well. The overall presentation I thought was good. But the other brand teams was not that great. Oh, I just realized that Star Wars also revealed the archive, the non-US archive wave, which, I mean, an archive wave is not that exciting. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I want that Luke Skywalker because I missed that version of Luke Skywalker, but I completely forgot that was the figure that I wanted. Attorney and Ellipse. I like the Transformers, but you're absolutely correct. G.I. Joe killed it. I was very disappointed with the Transformers introduced. Well, that's, I mean, like I said, I don't know Transformers very well. I know sort of G1 animated series. I know the Transformers that everybody else knows by name. When they start getting into the Cyberverse stuff and rescue bots, like I am aware that that stuff exists, but at the end of the day, that the car that's like a rock, I was like, that's kind of interesting. And it's an armor, which is cool. You can take them apart and sort of add them onto your other Transformers, which I think is cool. That Grimlock, that the sort of animatronic Grimlock, pretty awesome. Way outside of my price range, especially as somebody who doesn't collect Transformers, but really cool regardless. Mike Hex said Star Wars Pipeline was sad. I was hoping for at least renders. Yeah, I mean, I feel you. I get it. Mike, I think it was meant for USA 2, but they totally realized lines were rotting. Maybe it would. I don't know. I mean, I know that there's been, in the past, lines where Hasbro has done them to sort of exclusively to certain countries. But I wonder, you might be onto something. I mean, there may be an element of like, okay, if this product's not moving in the U.S. market, we'll sell it to everybody else. I mean, it's weird that they would withhold it. I don't know. I mean, but I was going to say that's to the best of my knowledge, that's the first time that I've seen that, at least in the last few years that I've been a collector. Payne's Toy Samples is here. No apology necessary. We haven't even gotten into it yet, so it doesn't really matter. I'm just talking about how PulseCon, some of the brands kind of let people down a little bit. But GI Joe didn't. So let's honestly, let's just get right into it, because that's what I want to talk about. That's what I'm excited about, and then we'll go from there. Mike Heck said I would be psyched if they flooded all pegs with white stormtroopers. You can't ever have enough. You're not wrong, and I think like when they do those like one per case or like two per case, it does. There are people that are still sort of wanting more. Now you can pre-order more, I think, for most of that stuff, but yeah, I mean, the way that I buy GI Joe stuff, I always leave room to pick up, army builders on the shelf, in the wild, on the peg, whatever you want to call it, because there is still an element of like I do still enjoy going into a toy store and finding toys to buy. That's where I'm at. So if I want, 4 of something, I'll pre-order 3 with the idea that when I see it on the peg, I still get to buy something. Ray, can we talk a little smack? I like the property the Foosh has, the Ninja Scroll. The first fig funded, I'm just thinking it's so expensive for one fig, and it's so light on accessories. I'm not going to talk smack about any brand ever. That's not my thing. It does seem a little expensive. I do suspect that it's probably a production run type of thing. I do suspect that, if this figure is successful, we could see more figures. I think we could see sort of a price correction. Now, whether that is going to be a price correction in the terms of like, will the price point for the next one be lower, or will the next one sort of come with more stuff? I don't know. But I think it's one of those things where they sort of set their bar low, and by doing that, they sort of like their expectation of how many units they were going to sell. They set that bar low, and sort of set the price according to that, and then we'll see how that goes, in terms of how that translates in the market. It's a small company too. You got to keep that in mind. And Ninja Scroll as a property is a pretty niche property. It's one of those animes that I think everybody our age at least knows. It's one of the first big ones that sort of everybody that I knew, that was sort of into cartoons and toys and sort of nerdy stuff, was aware of Ninja Scroll. But that being said, I don't know that it's you know, it's not Street Fighter, right? It's not Mega Man, which are two other, not anime, granted, but sort of, you know, toy lines that sort of connect in that way, or sort of seem similar in that way to me. But I hope that they're successful. I love Ninja Scroll, but it's not a line that I need to get into. I got too much stuff already. So, Mike, the HasLab would have gotten a bigger bump if they at least pipelined a matching Wasp or same Giant Man in 6-inch to be buyable. I 100% agree with that. 100%. Or even, like, I think they said that they're going to do those, but they need to sort of formally put that out there. I think I agree with you completely. Now I will touch on the HasLab. I will say this: it is over halfway in like the first week. I am of the opinion that if it's over halfway by the halfway point, it's probably going to fund. I think there's enough people that want this that the Giant Man will fund. Now, am I confident that they're going to sort of unlock all the tier goals? Less so than I was in the first couple of days, but we shall see. Attorney in Ellipse, are you getting the Crimson Strike Force 3-pack? I'm thinking about pulling the trigger on that one, seeing I do not have the Baroness and Twins. Think this would be pretty sweet to have. I will circle back to that because I have an answer to that, but I'll talk about it when we get to that sort of portion. So without further ado, let's get into it so that we don't sort of end up not getting to what we want to talk about. First up, we had the name only reveals, and the name only reveals kicked off with Night Creeper. Now I'm not going to go in order with the name only reveals because one of them, the name only reveals, they like rushed through, they kind of glossed over, and I was like, wait a minute. Did they say that? They mentioned Metalhead, but then they revealed the digital render for Metalhead, so he's not going to be in this list. I wonder if something was meant to be there instead. I wonder if that was just sort of like they weren't sure that that he was going to make it into the digital renders. Like, I wonder if that was sort of a last minute thing that got added. But anyway, we'll see. Going forward, we'll see Metalhead. So Night Creeper was name only. Naugahyde was name only. I'm excited for both of these. These are right in my wheelhouse. This was sort of in the era of G.I. Joes where, you know, I absolutely love, like, the Night Creeper with the purple and the camo is just a really, really cool looking figure. I'm really excited to see what they do with them as far as accessories and stuff like that. Naugahyde with the boar. I hope he still has the removable hat. Naugahyde is a Dreadnought as well. So, you know, people sort of talking about Dreadnoughts. We're getting another one. It might not be the one that people wanted right off the jump, but there he is. Then, of course, we've got the retro Beachhead, the retro Cobra Eel, the retro Cobra Snow Serpent. So more retro figures. They also mentioned when they got to the digital renders and talked about the retro line that we will be seeing hardier card stock. So you won't get those sort of bent cards, hopefully. They also mentioned that they are no longer a Walmart exclusive. Now, more on this when we get to the digital renders, because I have a little bit of a hypothesis. I have a little bit of a it's sort of hopefulness maybe that maybe they're doing something more than what they're sort of alluding to with the retro carded line. Like I said, I think there may be something going on there. We'll get there. The big one for me, and this kind of came out of left field because people have kind of been talking about this and sort of hoping for this, and you know, this has been rumored a little bit, but the Cobra Ferret, they just go, oh, Cobra Ferret, name only reveal. Okay, are we going to get the Cobra Ferret with a driver? If so, who's the driver going to be? Is it going to be, you know, a Cobra Trooper that comes with it? Will it be just a standalone vehicle? We haven't had that yet. So again, a lot of kind of interesting questions related to, how are we going to get the ferret? What will the offering actually be? I don't have the answers. I wish I did. I wish I knew more about this, but I genuinely, like I said, the ferret was something that I wasn't aware was coming, but I'm very, very excited to see where it goes. I think we're gonna have to wait a while. We might not hear anything about this again until, I'm thinking easily 2024. The sort of pattern makes me think that we might see something in like February, but it might not be till June, to be honest. It might not be till June. Let me just jump into the comments here before I get into the digital renders. Mike Hex saw somebody showing the background of a General Hawk may have stuck in an Eco Warriors tease. Maybe. I haven't seen that. I didn't see that for sure. Ray Paz most definitely want Naga hide. Yep, me too. Paints toy sample is going to get more than 2 Night Creepers. It's kind of not gonna get more than 2 Night Creepers. Kind of meh for me. And no, Naga hide is definitely pick up. All the retros will be wall decoration. They're gonna look good. I'm interested to see what they do with those, because I thought Beachhead was like a pretty good representation when they updated it, but we'll come back around to the retro stuff when we get to the reveals. I'm sort of curious what they might be doing there. Ferret and Tiger Paw, absolutely. We could get a Tiger Force Ferret. If you're not familiar with that, we could definitely get that. Paints toy samples, I'd be okay with it just being the vehicle to keep price down. Me too. And that's again, and sort of not tying a figure to a vehicle, allowing people to sort of buy as many of the vehicle as they want with not having sort of the extra figures, I think is something that they should have done. I would have bought more coils if I didn't have to buy it with Baroness. I'll be perfectly honest with you. You can only unload so many Baroness figures. But anyway, version 2 Bat and Eco Warrior Flint are definitely my most wants because they're ridiculous and epic. Man, the Eco Warrior stuff is fun. I don't know, like it kind of falls under the sub team stuff where I'm not 100% sold on it. So would I buy Eco Warriors? Right now, I'm gonna say I probably would, because they're not straight repaints. The Tiger Force stuff is as fun as it is. I've passed on. The Eco Warrior stuff is just a little bit more unique. It's just a little bit more fun. So I think I would probably go with Eco Warrior stuff if it came down to it. All right, now speaking of Fwoosh, Ray Paz, let's move on to the digital renders. And Fwoosh was the best place I found for the digital render images. So let's take a look at what they've got. I think these look absolutely fantastic. First off, we got Big Boa. Big Boa is one of those figures where I think I could probably pass on Big Boa. Fun character. I know a lot of people are really excited to get Big Boa. It's just not one of those ones that's on my list. My list was very, very long. It's gotten much, much, much shorter. That being said, Airborne was most definitely on my list. I'm really excited to get this figure and can't wait to get this. Sorry, I'm just watching out of the corner of my eye my kid running to the gate, and I may leave if she exits the gate because she's supposed to be inside. But anyway, Airborne is definitely on my list. The loadout for this guy looks awesome. Again, very sort of vintage inspired, but not a perfect representation of the figure. As far as like vintage representation. I think they could still go a little bit more vintage in terms of the colors and things like that. But I really like what they've done here. Now, I'm not 100% certain. No. Oh, yeah, I remember that I can't do that with this. I'm hoping that we see like a Joe Pro on here. I don't see it on there at the moment, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to be on there, because I also think that we could very likely get the goggles both be, the silver. Again, or maybe there's a precedence. Like, would a paratrooper have their goggles covered when they're not using them, or did they just not color them for the render? I don't know. Regardless, definitely one of those figures that I'm really, really looking forward to, and I would very much like to get in the collection. Mike Hex, I'm surprised they didn't pipeline Sci-Fi yet. Another I want in his green. Yeah, I definitely. Sci-Fi is a super, super good looking figure. David Bax is here. I thought we got some great reveals at PulseCon. I'm super excited about the Retro Duke and Starling. Yes, we are getting there. Ray Pass says, "Go get her. We can wait. Don't worry. If I need to, I will. But I can see her from where I'm sitting, so it doesn't. It's we're safe for now." Next up, we got Metalhead. Now this. I know there's a lot of people. This is sort of he's one of those characters, one of those figures that kind of divides people. There's a lot of people that are going to sort of bang on about like, well, there was still figures from, 83 or 84 or whatever. Metalhead was almost at the top of my most wanted list for Cobra figures because of this loadout, because of the launchers, because of the helmet, because of the updates. I can't zoom in on this. I wish I could. On his sort of chest, like neck collar thing, there it says Cold Slither. Like, the details on these figures is awesome. The details on his goggles. I'm sorry, if you don't like this figure, do you even collect toys? I mean, this is like super toyetic, super fun. You get all the launchers that are on ball pegs, so you can adjust them and sort of point them in every which direction, which I always loved about the figure in the vintage. But the leg ones were just on a pivot, so you couldn't get angles. This is going to look phenomenal. Plus the blast effects. I mean, come on. If you're a toy photographer, this is like a starter kit. This is like a toy photographer starter kit. It's got everything that you could need for like getting into toy photography. A great figure, very adjustable. It's going to be super posable and super fun to play with the rocket launchers, with the blast effects, on and on and on. That helmet that got leaked, right? That's Metalhead's helmet. Everybody was sort of all over the place thinking, oh, maybe it's Big Boa, maybe it's so and so. But there it is, Metalhead. Mutton Junkyard, we have seen the physical reveal for. He was at San Diego Comic-Con, so it's kind of a funny like thing where we've gotten a digital render for a figure that we've seen. But I'm very, very excited about this. I can't wait to get this. The more animal companions that we get, the better, in my opinion. Quick Kick looks great. Again, like Big Boa, just sort of not. I may pass on Quick Kick, and I know that's kind of sacrilegious to a lot of people. But he's one of those figures. One of those figures I didn't have as a kid, and I don't know that I need him in my collection. We'll see. I mean, the physical reveal may change my mind, but at the moment, I could go either way. This guy looks dope. I think that all the accessories that he comes with, the digital render, I don't think does this figure justice, because I think we're going to see the little bits on his backpack that come off are going to look a lot better than they do sort of in the digital render. Plus, there's the weird thing going on here where they've covered something up. I've heard that maybe it just doesn't translate in the digital render. That maybe it's like a holographic thing. And it just doesn't translate, right? Because it's translucent or something like that. I've also heard that it may spoil a later reveal. So we shall see on that. But the loadout looks great. The figure looks great. I'm very excited to get these. We also got the digital render for this guy in the 788 Fire Team colorway at San Diego Comic-Con. And that little thing was also kind of, it looked like that, right? It didn't, you couldn't tell what it was, and I don't think they said what it was. I think they said it's like a holographic imagery for something like targeting or something like that. I don't know. Remains to be seen. Regardless, this thing looks awesome. I want this one a lot more than I want the like the His Tank colorway version. And if the His Tank colorway version comes with the, what's it called, the MMS, is that what it's called? Then I'll grab a couple of those MMSs and I can sell those figures, because I know that somebody will want the figure but maybe not want the sort of toe behind. I prefer the original colorways for a lot of these. That 788 Fire Team, again, it was like, I got it because it's okay. And I feel like I'll kick myself if I don't, but I don't really need it. I prefer these colorways. I prefer the OG colorways. Speaking of OG, the retro card back stuff. This looks phenomenal. Okay? I have said that the version of Scarlet that they did already in the classified line, I think is phenomenal. I know a lot of people wanted this version right out of the gate. I lean more towards the updates for most figures, but I still want this. This looks phenomenal. The loadout is great. The look is great. Like the design, the head sculpt, the interchangeable ponytail so that one fits over the backpack. Phenomenal. They've done a great job. Now, here's where this gets interesting. Here's where I'm going to circle back to something that I said earlier. Retro carded sort of vintage colorway Recondo. Now we've got the Tiger Force Recondo, but this is on a retro card. It's identical. The figure is identical. At this point, I'm curious, and this is my hypothesis. I don't know anything about this. At this point, I'm curious if the retro carded stuff being standard release, I wonder if they will do certain figures retro carded and they will be very sort of version 1 vintage inspired. And then the main line will allow them to do more updated versions. What I'm suggesting and what I'm sort of hypothesizing, because we've seen Scarlet, Duke, you know, we've seen a couple other sort of retro carded ones that were original figures, right? They were very much version 1 figures. I wonder if we're now going to have effectively 2 concurrent lines. The mainline classified line will be similar to something like Pursuit of Cobra, where they sort of give themselves the opportunity to do updates. You know, we'll see the Joe Pros. We'll see more sort of technologically advanced stuff. We'll see figures inspired by the original stuff, but not necessarily like holding fast to that. And then in retro card versions, you know, we could see a whole line. We could see everybody that wants the version 1 versions getting their version 1 versions on a retro card. That's my hypothesis going forward. And I think that is a genius move by Hasbro, because it'll get suckers like me to buy 2 versions of lots of figures real quick. Again, retro carded Duke is a ground up redesign of Duke. This is not, you know, the version that we got already in classified, which, as I've said, is still to this day probably in my top 5 classified figures. This looks cool. I don't think I need it because, like I said, I prefer that other version of Duke. Scarlet, on the other hand, I think this retro carded one is a really, really great looking figure. And again, Duke, they may change my mind when I see this in a physical form. Then we get the 60th anniversary figures. These look amazing. These are deluxe figures. I don't know what the price point is going to be, but if these sort of fall into the deluxe price point that we've seen before, I am more than happy to pay the price that those have been at. The web gear on this looks great. The fact that you get the alternate head, the alternate hands, the soft goods, more real world inspired weapons, I think, which I like. This is an instant day one buy as soon as this comes out. Minimum 2, probably 3 or 4 if I'm being perfectly honest. This guy, definitely the same thing. Day one buy. I will get 2 of these for sure. This will be great for sort of interchangeable to do you know, underwater gear for Joes, especially if they're moving in the direction of having the neck peg be the same size across the line. I think if they do that, then you know, all bets are off. If you can sort of interchange the head on every figure, that's all I've been asking for in terms of like my nitpick with the line for a long time now. So I really hope we get that. I don't know if we will, but I know that the last couple of releases, there's been a couple of releases recently where the neck peg is the same. If they could just standardize that, oh my goodness, it'd be so much easier to do part swaps and to sort of build out. You know, I would buy more snow jobs if I knew that there was 4 or 5 heads that would fit on that snow job, interchangeable, so I could have, you know, a little crew once the snow falls, because I know that's coming soon. That was it for digital renders. Now, they're all amazing. I like every single one of them, and I'm excited for all of them. Like I said, there's a couple that I may not buy, but you know, physical reveals might change my mind. Let's see what you guys are saying about the figures here. I got to scroll back a long ways. Let me see. Mike Hex, Metalhead, I wish the leg pegs would be removable instead of always there. Well, I think they're on a removable piece, but I don't think they're removable from the figure. Like you could remove here, let me, like, I think this piece is like a secondary piece. So, you know, if you heat it up, pop the leg up, you could pop that off. I think I'm going to have him decked out with all the gear pretty much all the time anyway. So I'm not really too worried about that. Metalhead looks fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. Ray, I don't know how they're just making such wonderful figures. Look, great design team, very passionate about the brand. I think, you know, the updates that they're doing, Metalhead's a good example. You know, they could have done just sort of a swivel, but they did a ball joint because that makes perfect sense. Instead of the backpack having that kind of slider thing where it's kind of clumsy, just putting them on ball pegs on the shoulder just makes more sense. The fudgy bar is cool, and I mean, accessory wise, I like it. I hope that means we get Alpine soon. I'm sure we'll get Alpine soon. I've been saying this for ages. Just wait. They're gonna make everything. They're gonna make everyone. Ray Paz, it's not my favorite. I was thinking this should be the retro card version, not the classified version. Well, it remains to be seen. I mean, I guess they could change that at some point. You know, they're showing it on this background, but that's not to say that it couldn't end up on a retro card. I don't know. We'll see. Like I said, my theory is there's so many holes in my theory of them having 2 concurrent lines. But I agree with you. Like, if they did it that way, Quick Kick could easily be a retro carded figure. Techno Viper is awesome. Agreed. One of my favorite Vipers. I love that purple. I love the accessories. Ray Paz, I do like Big Boa. I like Big Boa too. I can't have all the things, and he might not make the cut. Paint soy samples need 3. That's true for like a few of these figures. I don't know which one you're talking about specifically. Scarlet is fire. Agreed. She's gonna look awesome with my retro Snake Eyes. They need this Scarlet and Selfie series. Yeah, I mean, I want the Selfie series to get updated. I want that steel core figure to be available in Selfie series. I'm in Canada, so it doesn't matter. I can't get it anyway. But I would like to see them do that and expand it internationally. Why not? Ray says, I made the same query on other channels. I wonder if there will be a Recondo for the classified series. That would, I mean, that could be interesting, right? Like I said, if this is the retro Recondo, what will the classified series Recondo potentially look like? You know, could we get some updates to that figure that we haven't seen yet? So would the Tiger Force be a pre-paint to the retro, and the classified one be different? I don't know. I do want this Recondo. Recondo is a figure that I don't like. He's honestly one of my least favorite vintage figures. So I'm hoping you're right that there's like a classified version. I will buy this version in the meantime, but I would like to see an updated one for sure. Silver K is here. What is going on, Kayla? Long time no chat. Just finished recording Trek. Go check out the Geek the F Out channel if you are a Trekkie. Even if you're not, I mean, it's interesting video to learn about Star Trek. If you want to learn about Star Trek. So. Ray Paz, need the seal. Jeff Morris is here. What's going on? Jeff says, most of these Joes look nice. Not a big fan of Big Bo. This guy looks nice. Yeah, I'm like I said, I like that they gave him an alternate head sculpt. I think that's a smart move. Good play. But one that I may leave out of my collection. You can't have everything, right? You can't have everything. Allison Troy is here. What's going on, Allison? We are not going to be talking about Batman today, but if you need an update from Allison Troy on what McFarlane is doing with Batman, stay tuned. I'm sure we will get it. Nelson is here as well. Scarlet looks so good. Agreed. I mean, just a stunning figure. I mean, a stunning figure. And that's the digital render. I say this all the time too. The digital renders typically are like most of the way there, but I think the physical reveals tend to look better. So I'm really, really excited for that. They were talking about how good the freckles look. That's definitely going to be a buy for me. I've been seeing stuff that we might get a retro Cobra Commander. Do you think it will be similar to the Hiss Tank one? I think it'll be exactly the same as the Hiss Tank one. I think it'll just not be the Mickey Mouse one. I think it'll just be the standard Cobra logo. But I think that's like that's a guarantee that we're gonna get that. Because the demand is there. I mean, the demand is clearly there. Jeff Morris, I don't have the money or space to buy them all, even though I wish I could. Yep, exactly. People will flip out those that bought the HasLab Hiss Tank. I don't know. I mean, I guess if you look, you have the prerogative to flip out regardless. I don't think they'll do that Mickey Cobra Commander. So I think there's still gonna be some differentiation if they do a retro carded Cobra Commander versus the Mickey Mouse Cobra Commander, and that's enough for me. I don't. If they put figures behind a paywall, you either get them or you don't. And if you do get, if you can't afford to get the figures that are behind the paywall, you shouldn't be bummed out when somebody else gets a chance to get something similar. That's my opinion. Buy your toys and enjoy them. Don't worry about what everybody else has, right? We're not 8 years old anymore. We shouldn't be like, well, I want what he has. That's not fair. Like, life's not fair. It's, life goes on. Ray Paz says, I want the Cobra Commander. I missed out on the Hiss Tank. I think you're genuinely gonna get it. I don't think that they would miss the opportunity to give people that figure. All right. Moving on to the so that's all of the name only. That's all the digital renders. What I am going to move on to before we move on to the physical stuff is the digital renders that we've seen that we didn't get physical reveals for. And I think this is the big announcement that they're talking about in October. I think they will be releasing, or at least sort of giving us the physical reveal of Clutch with Vamp. I think that's going to be the big news going forward. And I can't wait. The fact that they're teasing this out is driving me crazy. Vamp is my favorite G.I. Joe vehicle. Clutch is one of my favorite Joes, I guess by extension. I'm really, really excited to get this. And by get this, what I mean is I'm going to get multiples of this. Minimum 2. Depending on the price point, maybe 3. We'll see. It'll be interesting, to see how it's revealed and sort of how it's released and how I can get it. I'm really hoping I can order it through a Canadian retailer. I think we may see this as well, like I was saying before. It's the SMS, not the MMS. So the SMS with the 788. So this Techno Viper, I can live without. So this is one where like I want the vehicle and I don't really care about the figure. So I will probably get a couple of these, sell the figure off. These will be tow behinds behind my Hiss, and I will be a like a little kid, world building with all this stuff. And I absolutely can't wait. Speaking of waiting, I'm going to pop off for a minute because my child is now walking up the road unattended. My apologies. Should I, A, leave this running and come back in 5 minutes, or cut this short and do another video? You guys let me know in the comments. Because, yeah, she's been on a little bit of a tear today. And I think this is just her acting out a little bit. But anyways, if I'm not back, in a few minutes, it is what it is. Kayla says leave it running. Okay, I'm going to leave it running. I'll be right back. As I was saying, where was I? Where did I leave off? I had to run after her. Whew. All right. Where was I? Oh, the SMS. Okay. I'm excited to get the SMS. The Techno Viper that comes with, less so. You guys chatting in here. I'm just going to try to catch up to the chat here. Rape has any favorites from this wave they put up for pre-order? Absolutely. Let's get into that. I'm just going to catch up with the chat here, and then we'll get into the figures that were revealed, starting with the exclusive and then moving on to the mainline releases. Silver K ordered my first Joe Helix because she's fire. She absolutely is 100%. Definitely one of those figures that I anticipated that they would make, really wanted them to make, and I'm very, very happy with the execution as far as what they did do with that figure. Let's see. Is the child okay? The child's fine. She's just a brat. So I'll explain the whole situation because it's easy to explain. My wife and the two other kids went down the road to a friend of ours' house because they're having some event that was of no interest to me. She had to clean her room if she was allowed to go. She was told that on Friday. It's now Sunday and it wasn't clean, so she wasn't allowed to go. She threw a big fit, and now she's at home. Oh, not the kombucha. That was me running down the road. So we live sort of in the country. So when I say like down the road, probably a half mile. She didn't get that far. I didn't have to run that far. But she got far enough that I had to run. Let's see. Okay, we're back. I'm caught up. Sounds like Cinderella origin story. She wishes that it was a Cinderella origin story. It's not. She has a pretty good life, despite having to clean up her room. Anyways, moving on to physical reveals. Let me pull up and I didn't have this one queued up, so forgive me. This is just going to take a moment. I think I got to bring up the classified page on Hasbro Pulse, and we will look at the PulseCon exclusive G.I. Joe Crimson Strike Team 3-pack. Of course, we get the Crimson Twins in their crimson attire, as well as a Crimson Baroness. Now, it's a little bit odd to me to believe that this is still available. Now, whether that's down to this, whether that's down to this not quite being what people wanted, whether that's down to them overproducing this and sort of overestimating the demand, I guess those are the same things, or whether this is down to the price point. At $90 or $30 a figure, I think this is a little bit overpriced. Now, when they've done 3-packs of figures in the past, they've been a little overpriced as far as what they sort of offered, in my mind at least. But in a lot of those occasions, there was sort of like you would allow for it because there was blast effects or there was sort of extra stuff or whatever. In this case, I just don't think that, I don't think that argument holds. You get the 3 figures. You get, in my mind, a fairly minimal amount of accessories. And apart from the Baroness's sort of new head sculpt and the round glasses look awesome. And that candy apple red paint looks very, very nice. But I can't justify this. I have all 3 of those figures. There's not really anything included in this pack that I need, is what it comes down to. The Baroness, if they did a single carded red Baroness, I would probably buy that because that's a cool different version. I've never been a fan of the Crimson Twins in their crimson uniform. But that being said, I know that there's a lot of people that either didn't get the twins before or didn't get a Baroness before, or for whatever reason, they sort of see this 3-pack as something that they want. That's fair. I do think the packaging is really, really cool. I do like the sort of callback to the Chuckles packaging. Where is it? Let's see if I can find it here. The sort of call out with sort of what they see in their monitor and sort of what's small on the screen. So this right here, you know, in the Chuckles package, it's inverse. So you get Chuckles that can sort of see them small in his screen, which I think is really, really cool. They've done a good job with this. It doesn't scratch an itch for me. And you know, with that $90, I would much rather get, you know, a couple more Crimson Vipers and a couple more Crimson Bats and build out the Crimson, you know, sub team, the sort of Crimson Army, as it were. Because I don't think I need these guys. Not really updated. Like Baroness is a little bit updated, but I don't need these if they're not different, right? So that's my take on it. Everybody's gonna have their take, and I'm cool with that. And I think Allison Troy, if you're still watching, Allison, you were pretty keen on this. I'm wondering if you ordered it or not. But yeah, it just didn't do it for me. I don't know if this is gonna work. This is gonna come through properly on your end. Let me know if you can see this or if it's glitchy. On my end, it looks okay, but I love these little videos, and I didn't really utilize them before when I've looked at figures. But these turnarounds are great. You can sort of see all the accessories, see what figures come with. In this case, you know, I don't think they come with anything new or anything different. You know, Baroness, like I said, with the alternate head sculpt, I guess is new. But the snake we got before, the pistols we got before, maybe not with the silencers, the knives we got before, the machine gun we got before. Then the same is true with the twins. That's the same loadout that they got. So there's kind of no real bonus here. There's nothing that sort of justifies it being more than $75 for me. But I already have these figures. So like I said, you know, there's going to be people that don't. And so fair enough. And Allison Troy says, yes, I am buying it. So they're selling. I've seen sort of lots of people that are like pretty keen on it. So it is what it is. Ray says, I also want it, but I want to get some of the figures I missed out first. Hopefully it won't be sold out by the time I catch up. I think what we'll see too, and I think this is maybe part of it, is that maybe the demand, like maybe what's happened is that the supply is better than the demand. So initially there was a lot of people buying extras and sort of selling off extras and sort of making a little bit of money on top by selling those extras. And now I just don't think that's the case. So I think maybe there's that at play here. The fact that it's still available for purchase makes me think that people don't see that there's much over the $90 that they can make if they buy multiples. So if they're going to buy it to, you know, flip it or resell it or whatever, I think maybe it's just that the availability of this stuff has gotten so good that people aren't buying things as investments or whatever you're going to call it, right? They're just toys. I mean, buy toys that you love and leave the other ones behind on the shelf. I think that's how this line has become. I think initially it was like buy everything because, you know, you can make lots of money selling Baroness figures. I think there's a lot of Baroness figures out there that people don't want anymore. And I just think that maybe that's happening, and that's why this is still available in the store. Now, speaking of in the store, let's look at the videos for the rest of these figures. We're going to go in an order determined by me that is not the order that they were revealed in. Basically, I'm going to go from my least favorite in the line to my most favorite not in the line, sorry, in the wave. My least favorite in the wave to my most favorite in the wave. And I'm still a bit short of breath, but we're getting there. Now, if your preferences don't line up with mine, there's no need to be upset. You know, there's no reason to sort of lose your cool, because everybody's preferences are going to be different. There's lots of people that like all these figures. My least favorite is already sold out on Pulse. So, like I said, different strokes for different folks, right? First up, we have Ripper. Now, Ripper is a great figure. I'm not saying he's not. This figure looks really, really good. The tattoos are great. I love the sort of mullet mohawk, the removable glasses, the razor blade necklace, which I imagine is removable as well. The fact that he can carry all his gear on his person. I like the spikes and everything looks cool. Like, this is a really great looking figure. But as I said before, it's kind of one of those things where I like the Dreadnoks as a whole, but I don't have the same affinity for the Dreadnoks that I know that a lot of people do. They are a great, great gang, with it, and I love what they do sort of within the story, right? They're a biker gang. They're basically mercenaries. For some reason, they're British, but they look like American sort of Southern biker gang. Like, it all adds up to being something really, really awesome. And I'm gonna buy them all. Like I said, I bought the whole wave. I am here for this wave 100%. But it's what I expected he was gonna be. That's sort of my 2 cents there. So, hey, what's going on, Chad? Just popping in to show some love. Like what you like. Toys should be fun. Absolutely. And that's where I'm at, man. That's 100% where I'm at. The people that were waiting for the Dreadnoks, I'm so happy for them because they're getting 2 in this wave. We got Naugahyde in a name reveal. We've got, other stuff. I think we've got either leaked names that have been name reveals or rumored names. Like, the Dreadnoks are coming. You're not going to get them all in one, wave. That's just not how they're going to do it. But everybody will get something that they like. G.I. Joe has something for everyone, whether you like Eco Warriors or Python Patrol or only the OG 13. Stick around. I think you're going to get what you like. So, let's see. Thanos Copter says, I heard if we don't agree, we have to fight about it till we aren't friends anymore. I mean, I don't know if that's true. I've never been sort of challenged by anybody in that way, but we'll see. Allison Troy already sold out, so you don't have your finger on the pulse of Pulse. Why are we even here? I don't buy these figures from Pulse. I buy all of my classified figures from eCollectibles. I'm in Canada, and that's the best place to get this stuff if you're in Canada. So I genuinely, like, it sold out on Pulse, but that doesn't mean anything to me. I got my order in day one. So already pre-ordered all 5 figures, as did I. Full disclosure, I knew what was coming. So I actually, my order was submitted like on Thursday night, I think. But that being said, the retailer didn't know what he was getting. He just had code names from Hasbro, and I said, I'll have one of each, please. Chad says, I don't care for 112 or classified at all, but I love toys and I love Joe. And that's cool, man. And that's, I mean, I also think that there's probably a lot of people that are going to, there's probably more market for the vintage stuff as a result of classified existing. So I think, I think anything G.I. Joe is good for G.I. Joe, right? The rising tide floats all boats. And I think, I know that the O-Ring re-release stuff didn't maybe do as well. And, Hasbro's not really doing much with it, but I don't think it's beyond the realm of possibility to suggest that we could see more of that in the future. And maybe it's just a logistics thing, or maybe, I don't know. I don't even care to speculate, but I could see us getting more O-Ring Joes in the future from Hasbro. Now the question related to that, do we necessarily need them? There's a lot of people doing really cool O-Ring stuff at the moment. So, and I think, it's kind of one of those things where if you've got all the vintage Joes, isn't it more fun to get the Delta 17 stuff? or the call sign Longbow or the Operation Recall, like getting new characters, new figures. To me, that's just a little bit more fun, personally. But anyway, Chad, that's a conversation we could have at another time. That's we'll keep going through these. Oh, you right there. 118 isn't dead. 118 is completely taken over by small and more indie lines, and that's perfectly fine. Yeah, exactly. I think that's really cool. I think it's more interesting to see what other people, new people, can do with it than seeing Hasbro kind of rehash it. I say as somebody that backed the Sky Striker, but no, I think it's more interesting. It's more fun to see something new, to see something different, to see the line expand, right? Apart from the 82 figures becoming the 1.5 version 1.5s in 1983 when they added the swivel arm, and then things get repainted and reused. I'll grant that. But characters got new decos and new designs. Like, people wanted new figures. Like, it's a weird thing now where people are like, I only want what I had in 1983. It's sort of like, yeah, but in 84 there was new figures and new characters, and 85 was the same, and it was like every year there was new stuff. So the sort of pushback against new stuff is, again, a different discussion for a different day. Or is it? We'll get to Helix in a minute here, but like I said, Ripper is great. Certainly nothing wrong with Ripper, but he is my my number 5 in the wave. My number 4 in the wave, I will bring up now. He is also sold out on Pulse, but available from eCollectibles.ca and other fine retailers. It is, of course, Buzzer. And again, great figure, absolutely stunning figure. It's not a... Oh, what's going on here? Hold on. I can't see my screen and this screen at the same. There we go. This is a great looking figure. I mean, the design is fantastic. It looks true to the vintage. Very, very well done, well executed. Dreadnought, I bought it for sure. But again, because it's not really new, because it's not really different, because it is so G1 sort of inspired, G1 version 1 inspired. G1 makes me think of Transformers. But it's so much inspired by the version 1 that it's something that I want on my shelf. Like I said, I want all the Dreadnoughts, but I could live without it. I could live without all the Dreadnoughts. I'm getting all the Dreadnoughts. So it's kind of like a weird thing to say, right? That I want all the Dreadnoughts, but if I couldn't get all the Dreadnoughts, I'd be okay with it. The other characters, I kind of really wanted all the characters. So that's sort of the difference, I guess, is that the Dreadnoughts themselves, just, they're cool. I mean, I like, the Jaws of Life and chainsaws and stuff like that is pretty fun to get as sort of the options for accessories. I always thought, the stuff that they came with was really, really cool. And they certainly didn't disappoint, but I think I think the other 3 are just more exciting for me personally. Now the next one up is Shockwave. Shockwave is my number 3. Shockwave was a figure that I had as a kid that I absolutely loved, and I still to this day love him. I mean, I'm a little bit younger than some of the OG G.I. Joe fans, in the sense that I had Shockwave new, but I didn't have Beachhead new. So he's kind of that character to me. As a kid, I had Shockwave, and when I would watch Beachhead in the cartoon, it was kind of like they were interchangeable, if that makes sense. Like, I sort of see Shockwave as the Beachhead character from the cartoon. So absolutely love this figure. The deco, like that, that pattern of camo is just so cool to me. Like all the digital camos and lots of great camo at PulseCon this year. Tons of great camo. There was the camo on this guy, more specifically the camo on that 60th anniversary figure is just absolutely mind-bogglingly cool. That it's head to toe and sort of all through, and even in the soft goods. And then even Rakondo's pants, like the tiger striping kind of on Rakondo's pants looks really, really good as well. So very, very excited about that stuff. Shockwave for me, my only nitpick with Shockwave is that I like the two smaller guns that he's coming with. I would have liked one slightly bigger one, but it's a nitpick because I think the loadout is fantastic, and I think for an urban warfare kind of trooper guy whose specialty is probably in tight spaces, I think his loadout makes perfect sense. So like I said, a nitpick, certainly not a complaint by any stretch. Moving on to okay, so there's two left. Who wants to predict what my number 2 pick was, and by extension, what my favorite in the wave is going to be? There's only 2 left, so you get a 50-50 chance. I'm a little bit curious to see what people sort of think, just in terms of what I like. David Back says eCollectibles is my go-to place for all my action figures. Mike is great to deal with. 100%. Mike is a great dude. And has always been very, very good, great customer service, very timely. And I've always gotten everything that I ordered. No missed orders, no errors. I think one time I thought something was getting shipped in a box and it wasn't, and it sort of got shipped out, in the next couple of days right after. So Mike is a good dude, super easy to deal with. And like I said, if you're in Canada, check out eCollectibles if you haven't already. Let's be honest, you probably have. If you're watching this and you're in Canada, there's a very good chance you've already checked out eCollectibles. Nothing, no guesses. Nobody's. Dave's saying Helix as number 2, and then Hawk as number 1. Anybody else want to get a guess in before we take a look? Anyone? Anybody at all? There's only 2. Like I said, it's a 50% chance. I won't make fun of anybody if they get it wrong. You won't win anything if you get it right either, though, so I guess it doesn't really matter. Thanos, I don't know what's in the wave. The 2 remaining are Hawk and Helix. So 2 named Joes remain. A classic and a figure or a character introduced in a video game. Silver K says Helix number 1. Let's get into it. I am going to share this screen. Number 2 for me is, in fact, number 1 in command. That is General Hawk. Why number 2, you ask? Well, why don't I do this little turnaround thing? Again, fantastic figure. I like what they've done as far as, adding the gray in the hair. The removable helmet looks great. 2 sets of goggles again. So you get an under helmet set of goggles and an over helmet set of goggles. The 2 pistols for the 2, he's got the why can't I think of the holster? He's got the holster, sort of chest holster strap on the chest, as well as the one on the belt. And then he comes with the shotgun and I believe like a grenade launcher. So we've seen all those weapons before, but honestly, I don't care. I think they all look good. I think they all suit this character very, very well. The vintage figure only came with a pistol, 1 single pistol. So I think the loadout is pretty fair here. The leather jacket looks really, really cool. And I'm hoping that we will see that for at least one other figure, if not 2. Because I think they could do some fun stuff with that. And I like it. You know, that sort of fur trimmed collar. I think you could do it too for parts reuse. I bet that's sort of a separate piece that gets glued on. I think you could do it without the rubber collar and more just sort of a leather collar. And there's a few other figures that you could kind of do with leather jackets, right? So very, very excited to get Hawk. He's definitely one of those figures that was on my list as sort of some of my most wanted stuff. You know, before Classified even kicked off, I had my long list, and my list was broken up into GI Joe and Cobra, and it was like the short list of like figures that I need, and then there was like the long list of all the figures that I would buy. On both sides, those lists are down to like a handful each. So I'm very, very excited. Now, moving on to my number one figure as far as the reveals go, or as far as the pre-orders go. I mean, I don't think that I don't think anybody sort of anticipated that this figure was going to be this cool, in my opinion. It like, I don't know what I don't know why this figure is so appealing to me. I think it's just down to the fact that it's another female character, or another woman character, if you will. The loadout is really, really good. So she gets the swords, she gets the pistols with the extended clips, but the like mantis blade things are really, really, really cool. I think she's going to be a lot of fun to pose out. I think she's going to look really good on the shelf. I think that yellow is really going to pop. So I'm very, very excited for this. Again, the fact that you get, you know, I think everything can be stored on her person. So she's got the 2 holsters on the thighs. Her machete will fit into her belt. The swords will fit into the backpack, and then the mantis blades fit on her wrists. One thing that I found interesting, and I don't think anybody mentioned it, I haven't seen anybody mention it, is that there appears to be like a tattoo on her wrist of a band-aid, or maybe it's just a band-aid. Maybe there's more to that. Like, honestly, I don't even know this character well enough, like in terms of the backstory, to know anything about that. So if anybody has any insight to the band-aid on her arm, you know, let me know, because I don't know why she has that on her arm. But yeah, Helix is my number one. Really, really excited to get this figure in the line. The hair also looks fantastic. I think that hair looks really, really cool. The sort of ombre look with the blonde over top of the dark. Really, really nice figure. I was trying to figure out parts use there. I think she may have legs that we've seen before. I think her lower leg is from the original Scarlet, if I'm not mistaken. And then the upper leg, I wasn't 100% certain. But I think the torso is all brand new head sculpt. So yeah, just really, really great looking figure. And something that I'm very, very excited to get. Feel free to let me know in the comments what your favorite figure in the wave is. I'm curious, you know, what other people's thoughts are on all these. Like I said, I know a lot of people that were sort of most excited about the Dreadnoks, but you know, everybody's got their different tastes. Ray Paz, I do have to agree with a lot of other channels. Torch should have been released with the other 2 original Dreadnoks. Okay. You know, I'm not gonna disagree. Why? That would be my question. Why should those 3 be sort of released together? I just, you know, I think we're gonna get them. I think them spacing it out is sort of clever on their part, because it sort of keeps Dreadnought fans in the game longer. I think that I'm actually surprised. I will say this: I'm actually surprised that we got 2 Dreadnoks in one wave. I thought we would potentially get like one dreadnought per wave, and they could, you know, spread it out even further. But I guess maybe the demand was there, and so maybe they shuffled the lines. I don't know. I mean, I'm happy for people getting two. I think Torch is a no-brainer. We're going to get Torch sooner rather than later, and so I'm not worried in that respect. But Ray saying Hawk is your number one. No, he was not. Luke Poulin, what's going on, Luke? Just joining the stream. I'll watch the full show later. Love everything they announced. The only thing I don't get is Airborne's choice of rifle. Fair enough. I mean, what I suspect is that we could very much see a vintage carded Airborne with a more vintage inspired colorway and more vintage inspired accessories. Maybe that's my suspicion. In the same way that, you know, when they say that there's going to be a retro retro snow job, right? You'll just give him white skis and sort of change the gray on his jacket to white. You know what I mean? Like, they can do pretty minor tweaks and get another figure in the line. I think maybe we could see that with Airborne. So Dave, should have gone with my gut. Adam likes the female figures, and I don't blame you. Need more ladies in the line. I just think it's more diversity. It's more interesting on the shelf, right? It's, you know, if they were all white men, you know, the head level of the shelf would look pretty nondescript. But anyway, that's my 2 cents. Larry Reed is here as well. What's going on, Larry? Allison Troy, I like they spaced them out in mix of characters and waves. Yes, exactly. Me too. That's what I'm thinking. And technically, we've already gotten 2 Dreadnoughts. We've gotten Zartan and we got Zerang. So, Dave would like a female dial tone figure like the one in G.I. Joe Resolute. I would also like to get Doc in his niece, like get the Doc name with his niece as the character, not with like the Doc from the cartoon. Again, just because I think it's a bit of a swerve. It's a little bit of a different take. I think a lot of people would expect Doc to be the Doc, you know, from the version 1 of Doc, but I think more women the better. So why not? And then we could still get Lifeline, and then you'd have, you know, you would have some diversity with your medical staff as well. Ray, my wallet thanks them, but I do get others wanted it. Yeah, no, and I get that. I mean, look, like I said, the people that just want Dreadnoks, I get it. They want them all now, and if they only want the Dreadnoks, then they you know, they don't want to wait. That's fine. But Hasbro wants you to wait. Hasbro wants to sort of have the potential that you're going to buy stuff that you maybe think you don't. So, Larry Reed says, for all those people trying to sell Eel at stupid price, better be quick with the retro Eel coming. I don't even know what the Eels are going for. I got mine, and I didn't get extras. I could have, and I should have, and I would have if I had known. I just genuinely think that the distribution has gotten so much better that I'm no longer. There was a time I was having this conversation with a friend yesterday who I got a mind bender for, but I was saying that in the beginning, when I was finding stuff that other people were having a hard time finding, I would buy an extra or two just to sort of get to somebody that missed it. But it's gotten to the point where, like, if I buy an extra, I'm often like taking a loss to like sell it, because at least where I'm sitting, this stuff's really easy to get now. And especially, you know, if you've made a few friends and you've got a bit of a network, there's really no reason that any of this should be hard to find. That Eels was a unique one, and I think it was a little bit different. The Eels, Amazon with no maximum order quantity. I think there's probably people sitting on like 50 Eels that are going to try to cash in. I hope they have to sit on them long enough that they have to sell them for retail. I'm with you there, Larry. With Hasbro saying that they're going to do a retro carded eel and that the retro cards aren't going to be exclusive anymore, there may be some people that are going to need to liquidate that investment very, very quickly. What's going on, Star? Larry, 65 to 70 on eBay. That's, yeah, I mean, that's pretty shitty. But what can you do? That's a free market capitalist economy. So, Dave's saying, missed out on the Eels, but hoping that the online retailers will get them eventually. That's another good point, is that even with the sort of fact that they sold out, there's always the chance that other retailers will get offered overstock. If Amazon kind of can't get their act together, which I think there's every chance that, they're not going to sell through all the stock. I think there's a possibility that these will pop up again. The Eels will pop up again. I still think that there's the possibility that Amazon just hasn't sort of processed all theirs either, and that they may pop up for sale sooner rather than later as well. I genuinely hope that everybody that wants, that everybody that wants Eels can get their Eels. Star, are the Dreadnoks an ever-expanding sub-team, or are they a set group of select characters, and when they're gone, they're gone? I think within G.I. Joe lore, there's always room to add people. There's always allegiances and alliances that change. The Dreadnoks are largely like a set group, but it's not like they only allow 12 members, and one would have to leave for somebody to get added. I do think that in the lore, there's been sort of figures that weren't necessarily Dreadnoks that sort of have become Dreadnoks over time as well. So, but there's quite a few Dreadnoks. It's not. That's the other thing, is that people are kind of going, I want all the Dreadnoks. It's like, okay, well, Buzzer and Ripper are in this wave. We got Zartan, who's effectively the leader. Zarana and her twin brothers, Xandar. We've got Zarana. I can only imagine that Xandar is coming. We will get Torch. We will get Monkey Wrench. We will get Thrasher. Hopefully, as a pack-in with a vehicle. I would love to get a Thunder Machine. I think that would look so good in a 6-inch scale. But then beyond that, there's like Road Pig, I'm pretty sure is a Dreadnought. Nagahide is coming, who's a Dreadnought. Nagahide is one of those ones where he came later. So there's a lot of people that are like, I want the Dreadnoughts, that aren't even thinking about Nagahide as like a Dreadnought, if that makes sense. And I think there's a bunch of other Dreadnoughts like that, that we may get before we get, Torch or Monkey Wrench or Thrasher. And I'm curious to see what the hardcore Dreadnought fans, sort of what their reaction is, if that is the way that it plays out. But that's more for my morbid curiosity than for anything else. Like I said, I think we're going to get all the characters. I think we're going to get all the figures. I'm not worried about that in the slightest. Larry Reed sold his extra eel to somebody in our Northern Outpost Canadian group. He did. I think I somewhat brokered that deal. If I'm not mistaken, if you sold it to the person that I think you were in contact with. Ray Paz, I want some eels. They're great figures. They really are great figures. Ray said they would make new characters for the line, so anything is possible. Exactly. And then Wolf Spider is a brand new character. Exactly. We've gotten new like characters that have never been figures, by way of Sharpshooter. Helix was in the modern line, but was not a vintage figure. So I think, there's a possibility that, we get tons of new stuff. Star, I can't pull that Joe trigger. If I get them, that means Mezco 112, then 30. Fair enough. I mean, I'm just doing classified. I'm not doing the Mezco stuff. I'm not doing the 30. I'm not doing, like, Haya Toys is doing 4-inch Joes. I'm not doing those. With the exception of Snake Eyes from the Super 7 Ultimates. I'm not doing the Super 7 stuff. So you don't have to get all the things, is what I'm saying, Star. I can't collect all the things has been my motto for, you know, the last year and a bit, and I'm sticking to it, and it's served me well. So Star, if they made more spy-like guys like James Bond types or some John Wick types, I'm sold. Did you get a Chuckles? that's about as close as G.I. Joe comes to Bond or John Wick is Chuckles. And I love Chuckles, so I'm very, very excited that we're gonna get those. They didn't say anything about when those are gonna ship, but the last thing that they did mention, and this is what I'm gonna finish up on, the His Tank. You know, the update was that the His Tank is coming. It will be in our hands by the end of the year. Now, it has been listed as Q3 2023 for a long, long time. So I was really holding out hope that we would see them like in October, but it sounds more like it's going to be November into December. Such is life. Gives me a few more weeks to sort of clear out some space and to sell off some stuff and make some more room. I started that process this weekend. I'm starting to move some stuff, some extras, some doubles, some stuff that I've had in bins, so on and so forth. So I gotta make room. I gotta make room. His is probably gonna go on this shelf right here. So there's technically room. I think a lot of my army builders are gonna end up in sort of an army building bin. You know, 1 or 2 on the shelf, and then the rest in the bin that's sort of below the shelf. And then that'll be the His Tank garage, so to speak. But let's see. We'll go through a couple more comments, and if there's any other questions, and then we will wrap it up. Thanos Copter, gonna be cool to see people getting those tanks in hand. Yeah, man. It's man, they're gonna be bonkers. Christmas gift. That's what I'll say. I'll just say that Hasbro gifted me one. My wife knows that I'm getting one. I don't know that I mentioned that I was getting 2. It won't be easy to hide though. So, Ray, if you're finishing up, what's the update on Wave 3 of AWOC? Any updates? I don't have dates. They were sort of expected September. They got pushed back a little bit. I can't remember why, but I don't have a hard date yet. As soon as I do, I'll let you know. But I genuinely don't. Like, that's not me not sharing. That's me not knowing. So, David Bax, I'm still hoping to get a Satine with a redeco Shipwreck, Snake Eyes, Poly, and Timber. I would love to see that. I would love to see like a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive or a PulseCon exclusive of the sort of the band, getting the band together. I would love to see a Cold Slither box set as well once we have all the Dreadnoks that you would need for that box set. And those are the kinds of things that I think are great for con exclusives. I think, you know, I think the Crimson Strike team is a perfect use of a con exclusive, because I think, you know, there's the availability of those figures if you don't get them, you know, in that box set, in their standard deco, and the fact that those are an alternate deco means that nobody's really missing out if they don't get it. But anyways, guys, I gotta run. I got other things to do. I gotta go check to make sure that kid is still here, and if not, figure out where she is. It's been a pleasure. Thank you guys for joining me. If you were in the chat, it's been fun chatting with you. It's always fun. If you're watching the replay, thank you for checking out the video after the fact. I so much appreciate that anybody pays attention, and not from like an ego thing, but just because I enjoy doing this. This is just fun. And if it wasn't fun, I wouldn't do it. But you guys make it a ton of fun, and so I appreciate each and every one of you. And stay tuned for more. I will say that I've still got this guy to unbox. I may even do it tonight. I may do it tonight. So hit that notification bell. If not, I'm thinking probably Tuesday or Wednesday. But we will see. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. Until next time, bye-bye. See you next time.